Damon. I'm from a Palestinian family of Greek origin. My family is a kind of mix of, it's predominantly Melkite Catholic, but there are Maronite parts to it. There are a lot of agnostic and atheist people, and then there are also some Sunnis as well, mainly converts as well. My family, obviously, because of the Palestinian issue, is spread all over the world. So there's family in Cyprus, but there's also family in Syria, Lebanon. Once upon a time, there's family in Jordan as well, but they moved out. There's family in Chile, United States, Canada, here, of course, Australia. Largely speaking, I would say that my family in Europe and the Americas is not very religious, whereas the family back in the Middle East tends to be. And since a lot of them are Arab Christians, they are very religious. They're very in touch with their faith. But I wasn't brought up to be very religious at all. My dad wasn't religious at all. At the time when it really shapes you as a child, nor was my mum. So recently, so I was experiencing as a child, so there'll be Catholicism, the Catholic faith would be a large part of my life, but then there'll be Sunni Islam and then agnosticism and even atheism, just detachment from religion altogether. So there came a time, reasonably recently, where I just thought, it's time for me to see, I need to actually see whether where my faith lies, what religion is right for me, or if any religion is right for me. Lots of people said to me, this is kind of like a trend where you just go away from religion altogether and eventually you become atheist. That's what some friends told me. I was adamant that wasn't going to happen to me. So the more I looked into Christianity as well, my family's religion, I thought, if they all follow it, then maybe I should be following it too. It's a great faith, but it just didn't seem right for me. So I just thought, I looked into Islam just in general, as a general concept, and it just seemed to make more sense to me. So eventually down the line, I was just a proper Muslim, but then I didn't really associate with a sect or denomination or anything like that, because I just didn't feel like I knew enough. But I looked into Sunni Islam and its various schools, and I looked into Ahmadi Islam as well. But when I looked into Shia Islam, it just seemed like the more complete. And the phrase that I would use is probably, whereas the other forms of Islam are still Islam, and they're still, people who follow them are still Muslims, to me it just felt like, from the outside coming into the faith, it just felt like Shia Islam was the perfect version of Islam. So I wanted to follow the complete version, the complete form of Islam. And that's just what Shia Islam was to me. And then, recently I announced it, and then kind of going from there, just trying to become the best Muslim I can. And the best way to do that is just to get as educated as possible. So I was born in London, and I was raised in London, lived in a reasonably Western family, quite British, to be honest. And then I wasn't brought up to be too religious with anything, really. So we knew full well that our family back home, the Christians back in Syria and Lebanon, were they're very religious. Maronites, especially in our family, tend to be very stereotypically religious. And then maybe back here, maybe not so much. There's various parts of my mum's family, especially my dad's not so much, that is Sunni Muslim. But even them, the reason why I wasn't too in touch with that either is because they weren't religious either. So as a child, you go through phases of maybe feeling attached to the Catholic faith, going to, listening to hymns and, have lots of Bibles and crucifixes and, pictures of Jesus and all the rest of it. And then, maybe you look into Sunni Islam because you see it quite a lot. And then a lot of the time you think, well, I'm not sure if religion is for me, or like a lot of people, especially my age, will go through quite a long phase where they go, maybe I'll decide later. So, maybe I'll just leave it for now, I'll do whatever I want now, and then I can go back later on and just decide if I want to be part of a religion or not. But for me, it's not good to leave it. I want to know from now, because I want to be able to follow the religion of God for as long as possible. So that's what kind of drove me to get educated, to learn as much as possible. It's quite difficult to, because obviously I was lucky because unlike others, I had lots of Muslims and specifically Shia Muslims around me. So any questions I had, generally they would be answered. But, anything too complicated, then, people would say maybe try the internet, but the internet isn't as reliable as you might think. So lots of people, and there are lots of people that are out there specifically to deter you or to take you away, or there'll be some people, different motives, then they're not really there for you to learn honestly about the religion. They're there to maybe take you away from it or to dissuade you. So, even now, like after, I told everyone about my conversion, there's still people, telling me, this is what Shias do, this is what Muslims do, you shouldn't be one, you should go back, you don't know enough. But I just feel like, I've learned as much as I need to see that this is the path. And, with all due respect, just because I convert to Catholic, just because I converted to Shia Islam doesn't mean I don't have respect for Maronites or Catholics or Judaism or any other, it's because I'm Shia Muslim now. It just means that my love for all human beings, regardless of their religion or ethnicity or anything like that, is just greater. So, whereas before maybe people's ethnicity did matter, being a Muslim, probably the most diverse religion in the world, you have people from all over the world pertaining to this one faith, this one religion, this one creed. So it's just, we're all human beings. And then that's why I don't really like, people like to hate a lot on people who become Shia or people who are Shia from before, of course. They have to live with it. But we don't really, generally speaking, we don't reply, or we don't kind of, when we make an argument back, we don't do it in the same kind of way. It's more kind of educational rather than an offense, because that's what they lots of people, they try to dissuade you from, especially Shia Islam, by swearing and by, giving bad examples of things like that happened. But generally speaking, the reason why I found that Shia Islam is such an honest religion as well, it's not just the brotherhood and the love that's felt between everyone and the faith and the kind of feeling that you get that it's like the perfect form of Islam. It's not just that, the kind of truth to it as well, and the kind of honesty and the, you go out trying to educate people rather than dissuade people from other things. So it's kind of a more positive thing than a negative impact. So I think that's why I thought that, obviously my family, it's a diverse, being from, our family origins, Greek, Palestinian, Arab, living in the Middle East, but spread all over the world. There's a massive range of religions and beliefs, but I just thought that this one, which is one that no one else really believes in at the moment in my family, I thought this one was right for me. And I'm kind of trying my best to open my family's eyes just in general, not just restricted to the close family that I have here who are starting to come over, but also to my family in Chile, my family in Syria, my family in Lebanon, my family in, Sydney or wherever, just trying to open their eyes just to get them educated. And even if they choose that it's not for them, at least they would have found out exactly what it's all about. And to be honest, when people find out about what Shia Islam really is about, then it just becomes that whole lot easier to accept it, because it is like a wonderful branch of Islam, which is obviously the perfect faith. Right, so my family is mainly Melkite Catholic, but there are a large number of Maronites in relative to especially to Sunni Muslims. There's far more Maronites in my family. So in my family, when they moved from Crete, they settled in a small village called Kafr Baraim, right in the north of Palestine, about historic Palestine, 4 kilometers from the Lebanese border, and the population was mixed Melkite and Maronite. They're both forms of Catholic Christianity, Eastern Catholic Christianity, but the Melkites are it all goes back from before. So Maronites are followers of a monk, a Syrian one, that moved to the mountains of what is now Lebanon, but back then it was all Great Syria, and they follow kind of stricter form, and it's more. But both forms compared to other forms of Catholic, so for example, Catholic Christianity, the Latin Rite in the Vatican, people convert in and out of that all the time. So it's like, it's multicultural. Whereas Melkite and Maronite Christianity, tend to be very homogeneous. So it's like Melkite Catholic Christianity in particular is very. So, like I said, my family's of Greek origin. That's like the same with everyone who's Melkite, really. There was always a very recent link to Greece. Maronite Christianity tends to be a very recent link to Syria. So that's kind of where they're from. Maronites, they use it's like a Greek church. So the historic language is Greek, but generally speaking, since most today are from the kind of Middle East, they tend to all speak Arabic. But the Maronites, the language of their church is still Aramaic. And Maronites, even in my family, so, obviously I'm proud of being Palestinian, proud of where I'm from, proud of being Arab and all the rest of it. But my Maronite side of the family tends to identify much more as Aramaic or Syriac, and they don't like to be called Arabs. They think it's not what they are, because, their church it was like persecuted in the past. So they think that if by accepting an Arab identity, that kind of takes them away from their roots as Aramaic and Syriac. Well, I've only been to Palestine twice because my father was a first-generation refugee. He left the north of Palestine in 1948. He refused to go back to Palestine because he said that he always used to say that I refused to ask my occupier for permission to visit my own homeland. And obviously, that's what you have to do when you go to the airport. So my father was heavily involved in the PFLP, Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, and the Fatah organization. And he was in contact with the military leadership of Hamas as well in Cyprus. That's where my family used to be based. So I was raised as an ardent nationalist. So I believe strongly in the one-state solution that we are, and as a Palestinian, I feel that, because Palestine is so diverse historically and still to this date, Palestine is such a historically, religiously diverse area. It's a diverse place. I don't think that religions as such should be used as an exclusive form to return Palestine. I think that certain forms of Islamic extremism, especially now that, I associate myself with Shia Islam, I see the Sunni extremists and I see what they do in Iraq and Syria, and I don't want them to get any more extreme. I'd rather that it was all based as kind of a popular movement, whatever faith you are, we can all live together. I think that's like a core foundation of Shia Islam. That's what I feel anyway, that, as human beings, we're all created by God, of course, and we're on the same earth and we have the same kind of mission, which is try to it's all for our, we don't pray, we don't fast, and we don't do the rest of it for God's good. We do it for our own good, so we can get into heaven. And our role here is to try to be as good people, as the best people that we can, so we can try to get into heaven. And I see that as an important part of being Palestinian too. That just because someone has a different faith than me doesn't mean I'm going to try work against them or have any differences with them. If a Jewish person is not Zionist, then I see him just as much as my brother as a Palestinian who is Christian or Muslim or any other faith. So being Palestinian, of course, I'm very proud of it. And it's difficult, though, because there aren't really Palestinian Shias. So if I wanted someone who I could associate with completely and fully, like 100%, then the easiest thing would be a Palestinian Shia who I could relate to on the kind of national level and the religious level. But there's only a couple of thousand really, and there was like a genocide of them, of the town that was Shia near my hometown. Like, for example, I saw my love for the Shia groups in the Middle East specifically was, it far outlives my attachment to Islam or Shia Islam or anything like that, because obviously the support that the Palestinian people get from Shias all over the Middle East, is far more in relative than, from monarchies and other things like that from in the Middle East, such as Saudi Arabia and Qatar and other places like that. So I think that if you look at the deep relationship between Shias on one side, regardless of nationality, and then the Palestinians as a liberation group, then you see that it's a strong tie. So, Iran, Syria, Hezbollah, the Iraqis, they all work closely to help Palestine. Obviously, lots of them have their own problems now, but even now, even till this date, they still support Palestine as much as possible. And then you see that, and you stand back as a Palestinian, and you think, that's kind of the initial thing. When I saw it, actually, it probably helped a lot that I was Palestinian to be able to accept the Shia strand specifically of Islam, because I see the Shias helping so much, being the biggest help. In all honesty, Iran has actually sacrificed its ability to be massively prosperous for the sake of Palestine. Iran doesn't get anything. There is no profit for Iran for being the most pro-Palestine state in the world. It does it because it's deep love for Palestinians. So, and then you can see that as a Palestinian very easily, and you stand back and you think, well, they do this, and it seems to be Shias doing the most. Like, why is that? You look into it and quickly you find that Shia Islam is all about brotherhood, and it's about standing by the people, a just cause and the truth and justice. And then the more you look at them, obviously I support that massively, any human being really should. And then that's what kind of served as a stepping board, somewhere to start. And I think that actually really helped. To be Palestinian helped me find the path of God, which is just excellent, really. So I've looked into the story of Imam Hussein, and I've looked into various stories, but I'm still in the kind of stage of, so I associate and obviously identify as Shia first, a Muslim, of course, but I'm still in the stage of educating myself properly and fully. So I know the stories, but I still want to know deeply, the analysis and the meaning, and obviously that will help me. But obviously you can see, just by knowing the story and knowing you can see what Shia Islam stands for, and Islam in general stands for, justice and the standing by truth and standing by the people that are oppressed. And I think that that's what helps me accept it, far easier, because it's just like I see my own people, my brothers and my sisters in Palestine, wherever they are, whether they're in occupied territories or not, then I see them suffering, and I see that Shia Islam stands up for the people who are suffering, people who are oppressed. Historically, actually, Shia Muslims have been oppressed by, various regimes and people claiming to represent Islam, when maybe it's up for debate if they really did. And I think that, as on a level of my nationality and now my faith can actually intertwine, and it just feels like it helps me support Palestine from a Shia perspective, and it helps me be Shia from a Palestinian perspective. So obviously maybe being Greek here doesn't play such a massive role, but obviously from being Palestinian, I think that that's really helped, and I think that's what actually makes me hold strongly onto Shia Islam. That's what makes me sure that I'll never ever have any doubt that this was, if this was the right decision or not. I always know that it will be, because I know what Shia Islam stands for. And the more I look into the stories and the more I look in, educate myself properly, then there's just the more I'll become part of this faith, and this faith will, really ingrain itself in me. So my father passed away when I was 13, which was quite difficult, of course. So he was the person who kept the family up. He was like the provider and the person who helped with everything. So obviously it was a massive blow, especially when you're 13 and I have a twin sister and live with my mum. So it's difficult to sort everything out. It was a bit we came to accept that this was an inevitability, because he was in a bad state for a while, but you just kind of didn't really expect it. You weren't prepared for it, because it just seemed insensitive at the time to kind of prepare for something like that. So the effect that it had was it kind of made me angry, a lot. So whereas everyone else would be crying and upset, it just made me quite annoyed. It just made me really furious that this could happen to me. It just felt really unfair. Everyone else is 13 and they still have both their parents, and they still have everyone in their family. Everyone's fine. But then it's just me living without a dad. It made me just quite angry at the world for a very long time. Obviously still 13. My any attachment to any faith wasn't really there anyway, but anything that I did have probably vanished for a while after that, because I just didn't really understand why something like that could happen to me when I was 13, and it just made me really angry. I look back at that now and I realise that was really stupid, and I kind of failed the test then. But obviously my dad wasn't, he obviously had a massive impact on my life, so everything that I have in terms of all my beliefs in politics especially, that's he kind of moulded those. So my belief in, kind of family of humanity, and the caring for the oppressed regardless of their ethnicity or anything like that. The belief in the liberation of Palestine and the eventual unity of their Arabic-speaking peoples, across the Middle East and North Africa as a kind of ultimate goal, regardless of religion, because we can all work together. We have done it in the past, and probably the only reason why there isn't greater unity in the region is probably because other countries elsewhere in the West maybe just fear the unity that we could have. But then he kind of shaped all those views, and whereas maybe he got me involved in politics, is I have shaped my own views since then. So I'm the one who educates myself, and it just seems that he was right. So maybe I'm not going to follow what he said blindly, but I looked into it and now I do agree with him. And obviously him leaving, the loss of him from my life, it was really difficult. And it just wasn't difficult for me, but my mum always says that I was massively attached to him. So losing him probably had quite a negative impact for a while. But then actually, the more I looked into Islam, it just, that's probably like another reason why probably I found it quite relatively easy to accept it in the end, because the kind of feeling that everyone is one family is really helpful when your family is kind of spread all over the world. So, I have family pretty much every continent in the world. So having the feeling that, every Muslim and every Shia and every person that is around you is part of your family in Islam is obviously helpful. And the kind of feeling of brotherhood is like something that, all human beings look for. And it's like something that I managed to find. Up until recently, I was going along a line of education to maybe be a dentist, maybe go into medicine. And, so I've done 1 year of AS, and I stood back and I thought, do I really want to carry this on? Because obviously after you take A2s, that's kind of it. You kind of made up your decision there. So I stood back and I thought, this is fine, but it's not something I could do for the rest of my life. Like, I want to do something that I enjoy. So I've changed my ideas on what I want to be in the future. So I'm gonna retake the year with different subjects altogether, apart from history, which I'll keep as an A2, and then just take English literature, economics, geography, and hopefully there's a course called PPE. The ultimate, the kind of goal in the end, is to try to get into that course at Oxford, which is philosophy, politics, economics. That will be kind of the aim. That's like the goal that I'm going to be working towards. But yeah, I just didn't feel like that path was really for me. So this year is going to be kind of, starting maybe September, is going to be like a kind of a new path from a lot of directions. So it should be good. It'll be nice to have a change. So probably about a year and a half ago, I thought, okay, well, Islam seems like the right kind of creed, the right kind of thing that I want to follow. So I went through the phase which probably my close family is going through right now, since they're trying to come on this path with me, is, non-denominational Islam, which is kind of like what started off with, not really, I can't, not because I don't want to, but just because I didn't know enough yet to be able to say, okay, well, I'm Sunni, or I'm Shia, or I'm Ahmadi, or I'm any of the others. So, I first of all looked into, because I wanted to decide, because it's important really to be able to definitively say. So I have a friend at school, an Iranian friend, who is like a pious Shia. He knows what he's talking about, and he's educated, and he knows everything. Well, he knows enough to be able to educate me in the first place. And he told me to look into things, and he showed me sites and he gave me the address of a Shia mosque in London, and being able to go and look into everything, it kind of opened my eyes. It opened my eyes initially, and then that's when I became more interested in Shia Islam. And obviously I did look into Sunni Islam, and I did look into other forms of Islam just to make sure. But Shia Islam, the more I looked into it in relative to the other forms, is the more I realized that whereas the other forms are still Islam and their followers are still Muslims, as I said, this is the perfect form of Islam. So I looked into it, and then I realized this is. It wasn't actually very long ago that I just told myself I have to, Shia Islam has to be the path that I choose. But it's just getting to the point where I'm educated enough to be able to say, yeah, I'm Shia Muslim now. That's what kind of took a while. So, but yeah, there's been plenty of help along the way, but most of that help came recently. So before, it was really difficult to find kind of resources because, people, people are willing to help, but it's not the kind of thing that they want to do all the time. So, if I just ask the same friend or the same couple of friends, can you help me with this or can you help me with that all the time, I just feel a bit, like I'm just nagging a bit. So I had to find other means. And after using the internet for a while to do some research, I realized that not everything is strictly true, or not everyone agrees on everything. And generally, it seems to be a lot of people giving their opinion rather than fact. So, or their personal interpretations rather than what's actually factually being stated in the hadith or in the text or in the whatever. So, so eventually I had to kind of just ask people that I thought were educated enough, reliable enough. But again, it's really difficult to. It's really hard to find people. But that's why even right now, as I speak right now, I'm still not at a point where, I'm on a level where, like with the rest of the Shia community, I still have so much to learn. But right now I'm educated enough, and it's taken me so long to get to this point, but I'm educated enough where I can say, Shia is 100% the right form, the perfect form of Islam. So, but there's a lot to learn, and there's a lot that can still be done to make me the best possible Muslim that I can be.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله وأشهد أن عليا أمير المؤمنين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. May Allah bless you and give you more light, more knowledge, and more courage to implement the knowledge and to spread the fact and the truth among others, inshallah. May Allah bless you.
So, obviously, I told my family, not my whole family knows, my family is very big, but my close family at least, I told them, I informed them of my decision, and, my mum and my sister are like on the path of Islam with me, so, they're educating themselves too. I'm trying to, provide as much information for my mum and my sister especially as possible. It's just very difficult. So, if I want to try and open their eyes further to Shia Islam in particular, whereas, maybe they're still in the phase where, Islam is right for us, we're just not sure about sects or anything like that, to try to get them to the point where they are and where they know enough that they can say is still very difficult. So my family, generally speaking, reacted, I would say the people that know so far are generally quite positive. Like, it's like, well, if that's what you feel is right, then, we're going to stand by you. There's been a couple of examples where maybe that hasn't been the case, but generally speaking, it's been positive. Maybe the people that said that, maybe you're wrong or you don't know what you're talking about, maybe those people are the ones that, they're not educated properly yet. So probably even those who are a bit skeptical and a bit ignorant at the moment, if they just, went and got themselves educated about, Shia Islam and they looked into it properly, then they would probably be the first to join me in being Shia in my family. So I have lots of family which is Christian, of course, and Arab Christians and Greek Christians, like stereotypically speaking, tend to be quite religious and quite attached to their faith, and I feel like that may be the case with them too. So I haven't yet phoned them up, or because then they probably have heard, it's probably spread, but I don't think that they're going to phone me up and check. It'll probably have to be me who's going to have to phone up and say. But obviously, right now, I'm going to leave that until it's not really important what my extended family far away has to say. It's more about, if my mum's fine with it, if my close family, are accepting, then just allow me to get on with my path. And if, I can educate them on the way and hopefully open up their eyes, that's just a positive, that's like a plus. But right now I'm just trying to make myself the best Muslim I can be before I try to spread the message to others. Well, yeah, the conversion of lots of people, they find it very difficult. But obviously because my mum and my sister and various other people are on this path, with me, and they're trying to become Muslims and the best Muslims they can be too, of course, then obviously that really helps. And that just shows that, it's not like, it's not like I'm doing this by myself. You know, there's people that can be there. The closest people to me in my life are doing this with me. So it's only less, that can only be a positive, of course. And it's obviously a massive blessing. You know, I thank God for that. That is the case, because of course lots of people do lose contact with their family, and lots of people do become distant from their parents. But I'm glad that, you know, practically the opposite has happened with me. You know, rather than my family or my mum or my sister or anything like that, kind of being angry or being, you know, disappointed. On the contrary, they're supportive and they want to join me on this quest. They want to join me on the journey, and of course that can only be a positive thing. And yeah, of course I'm very thankful for that. Well, yeah, I did. So basically, when I wanted to announce it, when I thought, you know, I got into a stage where, yeah, I do know enough now, and I'm definitely, like, I do definitely associate myself with Shia Islam now. So obviously I told my friends and my close family and everything, just so, but they kind of knew that I was going to this anyway. I was going to reach that point. Maybe I didn't make it amazingly clear on Twitter, but usually I try to keep it not too personal anyway. It's mainly like political views and stuff. But yeah, so I announced it on Twitter, and you know, it's like there's lots of retweets and favorites and stuff, and generally speaking, like 95% of the replies are positive, and you know, they're congratulations and, well, you know, like, I'm happy for you, and may God bless you, and may God help you on your path and all that. You know, it's fantastic stuff. You know, if I just retweeted them all just to show that, you know, my appreciation and for their tweets. And you know, there's been lots of support, and you know, people message me and they're like, if you need any help, you know, we're here. If you need, of course, that's how this channel got in touch with me, is because everyone wants to help and everyone is like really supportive, and it's just like one big family. You know, people just give me links, like give me the emails of certain scholars. Some people, you know, tell me, look, if there's anything if anything you need, we can just tell you. There have been some issues with people that maybe, there are a couple of issues with like Christians, you know, who said that we're disappointed with you, that, you know, you should have stayed to, you know, part of Catholic Christianity and all the rest of it. Maybe those people are maybe intolerant, but yeah, the points that they made weren't especially positive. So it's not like you're going to persuade me to go back to any form of Christianity if all you do is swear and you curse me. That's not really, like, you're not really educating me, you're not really helping your cause there. So there have been some kind of ignorant, abusive kind of things on, it's nothing that can't be handled, but like, it's, you know, some messages that are a bit irritating, really, you know, like, kind of, you know, we're one Muslim ummah, and it's just like, it's sad that other Muslims think that, you know, they believe the lies that spread about Shias. And really, when you know, some of the things that they say, the moment you look into Shia Islam, you know, you realize just immediately that it's just all, you know, just a bunch of lies, really. But they believe it, and they, you know, they use it to, you know, they say, oh, you guys do this. I'm not going to give specific examples because it's actually ludicrous, but, you know, you guys do this or you guys do that, or they believe this, and it's just like, they don't, but they stick to it, and it's abusive. But again, lots of people, you know, people, because they're so supportive, and it's like one big kind of family of Shias, you know, wherever they are, whether they're in the street, whether they're in the mosque, or whether they're on Twitter, you know, everyone kind of helps, and everyone kind of tries to educate each other. So whereas the people who are doing the abuse may be quite negative, maybe just say some bad things, the response is generally, you know, educational, as much as it can be with the character limit. But, you know, just try to educate people. You know, I have close friends that try to make a point. It doesn't always work, but, you know, generally speaking, it's quite positive, and it's quite, like, it's happy to see. You know, people are so happy, and it's nice. I think it's generally, because it's so positive, it's been quite easy. It's just helped.